apparently fusion accidents are way more likely than you think. This is the third one in a row. I'm on a roll here. Yay! I'm out so much money. Hello everybody, how you been? That's great. Hey, let me ask you something. Did you grow up with the Game Boy Advance, particularly the SP? Do you ever feel nostalgic for it, only to be hit with the harsh reality that it just kinda sucks in comparison to what we have now? Do you have zero experience with modding a console? Well, then this is the video for you! Don't get it twisted, do not use this video as a tutorial on how to mod a Game Boy Advance SP. Rather, let it be a fun story about how sometimes things just aren't gonna go the way you want. Demon fusions are a lot harder than you think. There's a reason we leave it up to the professionals. But you know what isn't a lot harder than you think? The brand new partner of the channel, FiGGYZ. These things are rubber. They're exactly as soft as you think they'd be. FiGGYZ are a brand new line of pop magnet collectibles from First 4 Figures, the company famous for high quality statues of some of your favorite series. FiGGYZ offers the same premium quality at an affordable price and a compact size. Whether you're a fan of Mega Man X, Frieren, Metal Gear Solid, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Cowboy Bebop, Sonic the Hedgehog, and so many other franchises to come, there's gonna be something you're a fan of that'll strike your interest. As you can see, both a Metaphor ReFantazio line and Persona 5 line are coming soon, with even more already in the works that fans of a certain Japanese RPG developer are gonna want to check out. Every FiGGYZ comes with a double-sided metal plate that lets you place these characters in their world onto one big connected mural with a full set, or heck, put them in a different series altogether. They also come with the chance of getting a special bonus gold, silver, or bronze variant background called a chase card. Stick them on a fridge, stick them on a locker, stick them to your wall, stick them to something metal in a public area. Heck, forget the metal, stick them to a tree. Each one comes with a wall mount magnetic strip so you can stick them to any tree your heart could dream of.
Disclaimer, don't stick things to trees, it's rude.
With weekly releases, you can keep track of it all through the FiGGYZ website and the FiGGYZ Collectors app. Just scan the QR code on the back, log the FiGGYZ, and complete your collection. Buy them individually or save by bundling a full wave. Just make sure to click my affiliate link in the description below or use the code Macca at checkout to save 5% off any order over $50. That's MACCA for 5% off any order over $50. FiGGYZ, buy them and stick them to trees. Thank you to FiGGYZ, and now back to the video. But first, a little background. For the longest time, my only real exposure to video games was a Game Boy Color, and even then, the only games I remember having were Pong and Toy Story 2. It wasn't until, I don't know which birthday, I finally got a Game Boy Advance, and while I personally consider the GameCube to be the thing that really got me into video games, the GBA still ended up being foundational to my eventual love of the medium. At some point, I would get my hands on a cobalt blue Game Boy Advance SP, and it is that device most of my memories with the system can be traced to. At some point, I upgraded to a DS, and that SP ended up somewhere. 20 years later, I got nostalgic and decided to buy a used cobalt blue SP so I could play my childhood copies of Pokemon Emerald, which, thank God I kept that thing, and Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 2. Almost immediately, I had a rude awakening. The screen was just awful, and while I could tolerate it, I'd be lying if I said I was happy with it. I'd take it to the gym so I could grind these thighs while grinding those levels in Boo's Fury, and man, it ain't great. So I started to look into alternatives. I considered an analog pocket, but since I just quit my job, I decided I probably shouldn't. I could buy a modded SP or pay someone to mod the one that I have, but at that point, I wouldn't be spending that much less than an analog pocket. I could replace the screen myself, which would be considerably cheaper, but I didn't have the equipment or the know-how to do it. Plus, I don't know if I'd feel comfortable doing it on my own, considering I'd end up having to buy a whole new SP if I screwed it up. Ultimately, I decided it wasn't really a high priority, and I just moved on. Then, around this time last year, my friend Gravesaka came to visit, and along with him, he brought a GBA he had just modded. It had a new shell, new buttons, a USB-C charging port, and a brand new, beautiful screen. He then offered to help me do the same with my SP, and we made plans. First, I needed to figure out what mods were even available for the SP. I searched around on different websites and started to put together a list. Because the old see-through casing aesthetic for 90s tech is super cool, and because my childhood SP was blue, I picked out a clear blue shell. Since I picked a clear shell, I decided on installing an LED strip that could glow any number of colors. Because of the LEDs, I picked clear, almost white buttons so the lights could shine through those as well. As this list grew, I slowly realized I had inadvertently picked out pieces that were the exact same color of a certain little frost. It was here I realized I could turn this entire project into one big tax write-off by going all in on the Jack Frost theming and making this video. And that's how I conceptualized what I now call the SMTSP. Well, if I was gonna do that, I would want to go as hard as I could, you know? Make something special, something uniquely mine. As I did more research, I found that some people had their SPs customized by getting a design UV printed onto the top of the shell, a process they ordered through the online storefront RetroGameRepairShop.com. I just needed a design to put on it. I jumped into Photoshop and threw together some designs. A little Jack Frost off in the corner waving, replicating that one wallpaper where Jack Frost peeks out from the side, my own channel emblem, etc. But no matter what I did, nothing was really working for me. I then started to consider what I was doing with this device. It wasn't just gonna be the top of the thing that was Jack Frost themed, it was the entire build. I remembered that the screen I was gonna order could come in a number of different colored lenses. Black, blue, pink, yellow, and white. If I put that in there, the color layering on the top half would be black, surrounded by white, surrounded by blue. Much like a certain frozen fairy's head. The top shell could be more than just a top shell. It could be Jack's hat. And what's at the center of that hat? Is it simple? Sure. But this was no longer a canvas for an art piece. It was just one part of an entire art project. Snoof that pretension. So, the final list of parts to order came out as a clear blue custom mirror shell, clear buttons, a button LED kit, a USB-C charge port with audio mod, a high capacity battery, and an M2 IPS screen kit with a white lens. I ordered almost everything directly from FunnyPlaying, the company that makes all kinds of mods for every kind of Game Boy you can think of. However, in order to get the custom UV printing, I had to order both the shell and the printing from RetroGameRepairShop.com. Just before I put in my order, I would start to grow unsure about the LEDs and the USB-C, due to both requiring a soldering iron. Neither I nor my friend have any experience with soldering, and we didn't want to screw anything up. However, we decided that the soldering needed was pretty minimal, and it shouldn't be that big of an issue, so we went ahead and ordered it. Once all the parts arrived, my friend and I made plans and we got to work. The first step was to take the old SP and just break it open. We flipped it over and removed all screws using a small tri-wing screwdriver. One of the screws is actually hidden underneath the battery, so we unscrew this panel, pop out the battery, and get it out of there. Once the bottom casing has been removed, we unscrewed the motherboard and then angled it so we could get at the ribbon cable that connects it to the screen. Once disconnected, the board was free to be removed entirely from the shell. From there, we removed the buttons, gels, and speaker and put them aside. We aren't done unscrewing everything, however, as we now need to free the top portion. We removed one screw that keeps the hinge cover on, giving us access to the right hinge piece. Now, the most important parts for us to salvage from the old SP are the motherboard and the hinge pieces. While there are reproductions you can buy online, apparently they just don't compare to official ones. Each piece is made specifically for its side, and thus you can't just switch them back and forth willy-nilly. Thankfully, each end is color-coded, which makes it easy to remember which side is which. Right is white, left is black. In order to get to the left hinge, we needed to take apart the top shell, which was going to require us to remove the rubber bits covering the screw holes. We went ahead and cleared out the top before removing either hinge. The right hinge took some work to find the best angle to pop it out from, but once we figured that out, the rest came pretty easily. The left hinge, however, oh boy. A spudger is really perfect for this part. It's also just a fun word to say. Spudger, 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 spudger. There's also these little caps on top of each piece that blends them into the shell. So we went ahead and just slit them off so we can put the new ones on later. And now we get to the fun part, soldering. We plugged the soldering iron in, let it heat up, and got to it. The first major modification we would be making was the installation of a USB-C charge port. The old GBA charger is nice, but after almost 25 years of evolution, it's just a lot more convenient to charge using the same cord I use to charge my phone. We flip the motherboard upside down and start to remove the solder holding the old charge port in place. After that, we flip it back around and start to heat up the solder that connects the port to the circuitry. Following a tip we found online, we actually added some solder to the pins so that we could heat all of them up at once as opposed to each one individually. And we broke it. We broke the motherboard. The whole thing was fried. Let me explain. While we were removing the original port, we screwed up two things. One, we got solder on the CPU pins. Two, we knocked off a cap that lets the USB-C work with the motherboard, namely cap C58. The funny part is we didn't even notice this until a few steps later when we were testing the screen and got nothing. We tried the brand new LCD and got nothing, only to then try the original screen and got nothing. I think us being kind of nervous about the soldering iron as well as being so preoccupied with following a tutorial, we didn't think to actually check if it all looked okay. We just got the old charging port off, put on the new one, and then got to installing those fancy LEDs, which, by the way, was infinitely easier to do. Just add some solder to 7 spots on the board, tested them, and they were all good to go, yet the screen just refused to. So we were left at an impasse. The fact that neither screen was working led us to believe the problem was specifically with the motherboard, which we quickly deduced was likely related to the CPU pins and the burnt cap. We kind of panicked. We pulled out the solder wick and tried to remove the solder from the CPU as best as possible, but no matter what we did, we couldn't get it clean. We then decided to run around town trying to find some electrical flux that could help make cleaning easier, but no matter where we looked, we just couldn't find anything. So we decided to say, screw it, and stop for the day. The next morning, I woke up and went to the local game store to strike up a chat with the owner about what to do. Just a few days prior, I talked with him about this project, and he mentioned having done GBA mods before, so I figured he'd probably know what to do. Unfortunately, he couldn't do anything to fix the motherboard, but thank God he knew a guy. It's here where I would contact Retro Console Revival, who over the next 2 weeks would go on a journey with me as we tried to get this godforsaken project finished. At first, Mr. RCR, as I'll call him, told me what I already told you. I got solder on the CPU, and we knocked cap C58 off under the USB-C mod. However, after fixing all this, we still had the same result. Power it up, LEDs come on, but no sound or screen. The problem wasn't with the CPU anymore. The whole motherboard was fried. I was on the verge of tears. The SP I bought like 2 years ago that looked like my childhood SP was dead by my own hands. I just took the soldering iron, pierced its little heart, and got an extra press turn, leaving it for dead. I was gonna have to buy a whole new SP, or well, as new as an SP can get in 2025, if I wanted to keep this project going. Thankfully, Mr. RCR came in clutch and saved the day. He just so happened to have a donor board that he had confirmed worked and was willing to sell me for a fraction of the price of a whole system. He'd also transfer all of my mods over, which, after what I did to the last MOBO, I think would be safer. A few days later, we met back up, I got the new motherboard, and I was off to finish this project. This time with a brand new camera angle that I hope gives a better view of things. So now I was back to where I stopped. An empty Game Boy Advance SP shell, and an SP motherboard with a USB-C port mod and an LED strip installed. Unfortunately, seeing as Gravesaka lives 5 hours away and needs to work to live, I was gonna have to finish everything on my own. Next up, the screen. To reiterate, what I have here is a funny playing M2 IPS screen, which I would later learn is actually the newest IPS screen from Funny Playing. I wish I knew this before buying it, not because it's bad, but because there weren't any good video tutorials out at the time that I could follow to make sure I was installing it properly. Luckily, there is a step-by-step tutorial on Funny Playing's own website, which made putting this part together a whole lot easier. Now, the first step is to make sure it all works. And hey, what do you know? The screen works. That's just lovely. Let's get this thing installed. Look at that film come right off. Nice. If only it was in focus. So, I placed the screen face down in the shell, proceeded to remove the tape on the back of the adapter board, and stuck it to the back of the LCD panel, folding the ribbon cable over in the process. Then I removed the tape from this little piece at the top and stuck it to the top part of the upper SP shell. This thing is a touch sensor, which gives me an alternate way to change the brightness and other settings the screen offers. Online, I saw some people mixed on it, but I thought that if I was going to go for the ultimate SMTSP, I was going to go for it. The next step is to install a special plastic bracket. Because I'm using custom housing, this bracket is a required step to help hold the screen in place. Unfortunately, it's only now as I review the footage do I realize that I needed to install the touch sensor behind the bracket and not in front of it. Having used it, I can say that while the sensor does still work, it is much more sensitive than I would like. It's way too easy to switch brightness levels on accident. I'm like 99.99% sure this is due to it being below the bracket and thus closer to the surface. Ah well, live and learn. Next, I needed to connect the top and bottom parts of the shell together. The problem is that because I stuck the touch sensor to the shell already, I had to do all of this while holding the screen in place. Do not make the same mistakes as me. This video is a cautionary tale. I went and cut the hinge caps free and slipped them on so that the hinges could better blend into a translucent shell where you could still see them anyway. Since I thought the left hinge needed to be installed before you place the back part of the top shell on, doing so while the screen actively hampered movement was incredibly awkward and made it infinitely harder to get everything into the right place. Not to mention, the caps kept falling off for some reason, forcing me to pop the hinges back out so I could put the caps back on. Eventually, it would occur to me that I didn't need to install the left hinge before putting the back of the top shell on. I only needed to remove the back shell in order to gain access and push the left hinge out. I could screw the top together, secure the screen in place, and save myself a ton of headache. But first, I had a choice to make. While I did want to go with the clear plastic look, I wasn't confident in how it would all look with a custom UV print. So just in case, I bought a super cheap piece of plastic that Funny Playing sells on their website, so I could give the print a solid color background if I wanted to. However, I ultimately think it looks better without that background, and I took it back out. That's $1 American down the drain, boo-hoo. I screwed the top together, making sure to curl the ribbon cable over so it can weave its way towards the motherboard later, only to find a new hurdle to overcome. I could not for the life of me find a good enough grip that I could use to pop the hinges in. Now absent a spudger, I went and grabbed a freaking wrench to try and push it in. No dice. I decided to switch from the left hinge to the right one for a minute, and oh wow, I got it pretty much instantly. That's halfway done at least. I spent so much time trying to get this thing in, I got desperate and undid the top again, just in case I made a mistake. But ultimately, it was the table I was working on that did the trick. The simplest answers, man. I installed the hinge cover and then had to come to terms with a cruel reality. I'm not done with the soldering iron. If I want to be able to control the brightness with the button and not just the touch sensor, I needed to connect a wire from the ribbon cable to its appropriate spot on the LED strip. While I waited for the iron to heat up, I went ahead and cut and installed the rubber caps and bumpers that go in the holes on the top of the SP. Once the iron was hot enough, I started adding some solder to the LED spot, and man, you can really see how nervous and inexperienced I am with this thing, especially after what happened last time. Look at my handshake, Jesus. I connect the wire and put the 1000-degree knife away, never to be used again. Now we're on to the easy part, the buttons. Pop and cut them out from their frame and stick them into the SP shell. I also went to the trouble of shaving off some excess left over from where they connected to the frame. Along with them, I go ahead and put the speaker in place, followed by the button gel membranes. Slot the motherboard in place, screw it back in, and now there's only one piece left to deal with. Before finishing, the back lower shell has 3 things I gotta install first. The left shoulder button, the right shoulder button, and... okay, I don't know what this thing is called actually. It like covers up the motherboard from the opening where you slot in game cartridges. That thing. The shoulder buttons are tricky, but ultimately they weren't that hard to install. The main difficulty was hooking the little metal piece into place so that the buttons could return to the correct position when not being pressed. I put the cover thingy in place, make sure the retaining nut is in its spot, and I screw the lower bottom to the rest of the build. And with that, boom, it is complete. Let's boot up the SMT-SP and... there's no sound! Yeah, so no sound was coming out of the thing. I opened it back up and took a look at the speaker to see if I had installed it incorrectly. I tried cleaning the contacts, basically did everything I could to get it to work, but nada, nothing. I contacted Mr. RCR again, and I had to pass the buck back over to him to diagnose. What he discovered is that the LED kit, for whatever reason, was shorting the sound chip every single time. Not the speaker, the sound chip. Meaning that not only could I not use the LED kit I bought, but I had to get another SP motherboard. My 3rd one. Mr. RCR was kind enough to refund me on the board, but the fact is that it hurt like hell. After all that effort, this thing still wasn't done. In the end, I was just so tired and wanted this project to be over and done with. I got a 3rd SP, handed it off to Mr. RCR, asked him to transfer over everything but the LED kit, and in the end, he effectively ended up making the final build anyway. Basically, all the work I did putting it together really didn't matter in the end. I just wanted this to be over and done with. So, without further ado, I now present you with the SMT-SP. Despite the fact that all that effort I put in kind of didn't matter, I'm actually really glad I set out to do this project. Not only did I get a one-of-a-kind Jack Frost-themed Game Boy Advance SP, but it was a ton of fun getting to tinker with something. I got to learn how a device that helped define my childhood ticked. Sure, I might be out more money than I had anticipated, and I might have suffered from greater headaches than I wanted, but in the end, I'm actually really satisfied with the final product. I've been playing the hell out of it at work and at the gym, and I think it really revitalized my desire to build up a Game Boy collection. Sure, there are plenty of better places to play some GBA games. If I'm gonna play Mega Man 03 again, it will probably be with the Legacy Collection on my Switch. But there are some games that just feel right on this thing. Not to mention, there are still so many games that are still exclusive to this thing. Pokemon Emerald, the Legacy of Goku trilogy, the Sonic Advance trilogy, Mother 3. So many gems that can't be found anywhere else. Frankly, part of me wants to try this again sometime. Maybe don't go so damn hard on it though. Now that I've done it once, hopefully I'm less likely to run into any more catastrophes. Hopefully. If you're at all interested in modding a GBA, or any console for that matter, let me give you some advice now that I've done it for myself. 1. Do research. Make sure you know everything you'll need and everything you'll be doing. There are plenty of easy to understand tutorials online that you can follow. For this project, I personally used Macho Nacho Productions' guide as a reference for most of it, as well as the previously mentioned M2 IPS screen tutorial on Funny Playing's website. Funnily enough, while making this video, Macho Nacho uploaded a full installation guide and breakdown of the M2 screen. Wish I could have used it, but well. 2. If you're using a soldering iron, use electrical flux. It's on Amazon. Buy it. 3. Prepare to make mistakes. Costly mistakes. Even something as simple as accidentally getting solder in the wrong place can short the entire board. You might have to buy a second device if you screw up. Also, be aware of the mods you buy. Even if you're buying from a reputable manufacturer, you might end up getting a bad product. I seriously want to thank everyone who helped me with this project. My friends who lent me lights, helped set them up and record everything. My friend Gravesaka for coming up and guiding me through the first half of the build. My local retro game store owner for putting me in contact with Mr. RCR, and, of course, Mr. Retro Console Revival himself. I don't know how much me shouting him out will do for him business-wise, but if you can, there's a link in the description. Go check him out. I'm not kidding when I say this project would have been a complete and total bust without him. If you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified of my next one. If you want to help support the channel, here are a few ways you can do it. First, check out FiGGYZ using my affiliate link down below. I get a kickback anytime you make a purchase with it, so make sure to use it when you buy. Of course, if you want to support me directly, as well as get some perks like your name in the credits of every video, as well as early access to new videos, sometimes days in advance, why not check out my Patreon or consider becoming a YouTube member? You can join either for as little as $1 a month. Any support you give goes a long way in getting stuff like this video made, especially when they end up costing me a whole lot more than I was expecting. You all have a nice day. I'm gonna go prepare myself for the inevitable hate I'm gonna get from P3R fans. Spudger.